All right, everybody. Shalom, blessings. Welcome to another episode of Did You Know? All right, we're not gonna keep it long. Very short and brief, quick to the point. Right now, tonight, we're going into some history on Christmas, or as you better know it as well, not better know it, but like as it was known in the older times as Saturnalia or Satan's holiday or Satan's party or party to Bacchus. You with me? All of that stuff. Now we're checking out history. We're checking out some history, right? And we found out that in England, in about the year 1952, Christmas, or what it was called Christmas, that celebration was banned because of drunken revelry, murder, rioting. They banned it. Just about around about the same time when they executed what's it called, when they executed King Prince Charles the First, the son of King James, when they executed him. Shortly about that time, they had put a ban on it for about 4 years. You with me? So about 1656, they allowed it again to go on because people were begging for it. They wanted it. And it's not the Christmas that you see now where they're talking about, under the tree and the love of Jesus and all that. Back then they knew it was pagan. When you go back further in history, you have a pope by the name of Gregory the First. Now Gregory the First, they call him Gregory the Great, had instructed Augustine of Canterbury to integrate paganism with what the growing Catholic congregation was doing. So in Europe, they were well aware that it was paganism. Now, when you jump over into the New World, like in America now, like in 1659, America also did a ban on Christmas celebration, a Saturnalia. You with me? And they kept it for a good 200 years. So coming up into the 1800s now, you found there was even riots going on that people wanted it. They wanted that Christmas celebration, and they started to riot. So the government, I think in New York, they had to get they made a police force in New York. You can actually get some of these dates from online. There's an article here from the University of what's the name of this university here? The University of Austin, and history.com, that goes into that riot and tells you about what was going on in New York about the 1800s when they were rioting. All right. I think New York had to make a police force just to combat some of the riots going on in 1828, around about there. So this time of the year has always been about drunken revelry and never really nothing to do with Christ. And the pagans knew it. The church knew it also back then. And the church the church tried to keep it out because it was bad, very bad. Now check this out. The American Sunday School Society, right, started to teach, and you can reference, or you can look up all this information. Started to teach the children, right? Started to teach the children about Christmas and about the nativity, and then started to incorporate Christ with it, and say, oh yeah, it's about giving gifts and sweets. And it was very impactful because it grew the churches. The churches got bigger as a result of that, them teaching that. The Sunday School Society targeting the children, and other practices of paganism started to adopt that sweet culture of giving children sweets to lure them. You can think about it, right? Yeah, you guessed it. Halloween. So that's when that came in, that tradition of giving gifts at Halloween, giving sweets to children at the Halloween time. It was all a ploy to get the children. So once the children had it, then it was then easier for the society to then acclimatize to it. Now bring it up to modern day. Bring it up to today's happenings and today's going on, right? Tried, tested, and proven method. If you can get the children in on it, then when that generation passed, then it will become a normality. At one point in time, Christmas was illegal. It was illegal. You got fines for it. All right. Let me read this article here from the University of Austin. It says histories and the invention of tradition, all right? And this is digital histories using new technologies to enhance teaching and research. It says if you were catapulted back to colonial America 350 years ago, you would be struck by the absence of holidays. There was no Christmas, there was no Easter, there was no Halloween, no Valentine's Day, and of course, no Memorial Day, Independence Day, Labor Day, or Mother's Day. Take, for example, Christmas. In New England, the celebration of Christmas was illegal. In Massachusetts, there was a 5 shilling fine for celebrating the holiday. In the southern colonies of Virginia and Maryland, it simply wasn't celebrated. And this is going back 300 years ago. This is not that long. This isn't a tradition that's been here for a long time when you look at it in the scope of things. It says, let's jump ahead to the 1800s. Christmas was no longer illegal, and Christmas was no longer illegal in America in 1870. All right, but Christmas was definitely different then than it is today. Christmas was not centered around the family or children or giving presents. There was no Christmas trees or with ornaments or lights. There was no Christmas cards, and there was no kissing beneath the mistletoe. And even that, the mistletoe also is a symbol of fertility. And that's why and apparently I think when you look in old pagan history, when a woman takes mistletoe, it makes her more loose for sexual exploit. That's why whenever a woman is caught under the mistletoe for the tradition, she would have to kiss you. You with me? It all goes back to ancient pagan Druid religion and culture. Check this. It says, nor were Christmas carols. Many, amazingly, of all know Santa Claus or Kris Kringle and St. Nicholas. That was what was there in the 1800s was a rowdy, drunken street carnival, a raucous combination of Halloween, New Year's Eve, and Mardi Gras. The poor would demand entrance into the homes of the rich and aggressively beg for drink, food, and money. Sometimes things would have escalated and there would be break-ins, vandalism, sexual assaults, and plenty of drinking. In 1822, a particularly violent Christmas riot in New York led the city to institute its first professional police force. So because of the riots, they brought in a police force. Christmas, where was I? Christmas celebrations in the 1800 owed more to midwinter worship of Saturn, which is another name for Satan, and Bacchus. We know about Bacchus, which is another drunken revelry within Carnival or Bacchanal, as we say in the Caribbean. Where am I? Than to Christ. By the 2nd century, the Romans were regularly feasting, drinking, and cavorting like satyrs from December the 17th to the first day of Saturnalia to January the 1st. So it was a long celebration, like a 12-day celebration. You know what I'm saying? The 12 days of Christmas. Yep, that's where it comes from. They also decorated their houses with evergreen boughs. So the evergreen tree, that was another symbol for fertility or fertility worship. You with me? In the 4th century, Christians began to celebrate Christ's birth on December 25th. Now we know the 4th century is at the council of Nicaea when they started to integrate pagan practices. But when you go a little further down, like up to the 6th century, further down, the Pope, they were instituting it straight across the board. All right. It says in the 4th century, Christians began to celebrate Christ's birth on the 25th of December, the winter solstice on the Roman calendar, which is also the birthday of Mithras, which is known as the sun, one of the sun gods. And in December 25th, it's the reverse, the winter solstice. The day starts to become longer, part of the pagan customs. On the Roman calendar, this was a partly way to meet the challenge of pagan cults. The church tacitly agreed to let the holiday be celebrated more or less as it always was. So it was a compromise with the church and the pagans. They wanted to appease them. They wanted to bring them in. The Christmas celebration that arose in medieval Europe was an occasion for excess and extravagance, public lewdness, and violation of social order. In medieval and early modern Europe, celebrants often erected a large misrule to preside over these annual revels. In one episode in 1637 in England, the crowd gave the Lord of Misrule a wife in a public marriage service conducted by a fellow reveler posing as a minister. The affair was consummated on the spot. No wonder New England Puritans started to criminalize this rowdy affair. It was, dealing with all sorts of nastiness. Puritans were particularly upset by two irksome Christmas practices. One of mumming, the exchange of clothes between men and women. Now, what does the Bible say? You know it. Deuteronomy 32, verse 5. And even worse was the outbreak of rioting, drunkenness, and fornication. It was the raucous celebration that the New England Puritans tried to kill. There's more here that you can go into and read. You with me? So I said I'd bring out a little bit of this history that people can actually go and look up and see the origins of this satanic time of the year. You with me? Like what we're seeing right now is a watered down version of at least publicly, of what used to happen. A lot of these things are still going on right now, privately, private parties, sex rituals, sacrifice, and so on. You with me? So another episode of Did You Know? Probably that's all the time that we have. Don't forget to like it, subscribe to it, share it, click the bell icon. All right. See you next week. We're gonna go into. See you next week. I won't give that one away. All right. Bless you. Stay prayed up, and until we see you again. Most I will. Shalom.